welcome to the Board of Clackamas County Commissioners Issues and Updates for July 6, 2021. And our administrator, Gary Schmidt, will lead us off. Gary.
Thank you, Chair Smith. So yes, we're back to the pre-pandemic seating arrangement for commissioners on Tuesdays, which we are at right now. The Zoom is still available and working for those members of the public who wish to watch or staff who can watch now from their desks. To start quickly, Chair Smith, you wanted to address the heat wave we recently had and make some comments?
Yeah, before we get started on the agenda that's posted, in Oregon in this recent heat wave, we had 94 deaths, and that's very sad for us, and now 11 deaths were reported in Clackamas County as a result of the heat wave. Reportedly in the newspapers, I'm just repeating this, a majority of the people who died so in their homes without the benefit of air conditioning or a fan. That is why both Multnomah and Clackamas counties set up cooling shelters, and that was a very good idea. Thank you, Commissioner Fisher, for bringing that up. But I got to thinking about it in conversations. I think maybe it's incumbent upon all of us to reach out to the people whom we know in our neighborhoods or family members who need to be checked on regularly. If they don't have air conditioning, let's get them to a cooling or a warming shelter in the winter, because I believe these deaths, they're very, very sad. And there's statistics available on who died. Mainly it was the older population, and maybe they couldn't drive to a cooling shelter. We just don't know. We just don't know that. In my case, I have an 88-year-old father who is medically compromised. He is well taken care of. And so if we can reach across, the neighborhood, somebody next door, down the street, whom we know has a medical issue, upcoming, hey, do you have air conditioning? And just make up an excuse to knock on their door. I think during COVID, we got used to not reaching out to people. We got used to not knocking on the door. So let's try to think, how can I be friendly to those people around me whom I might have influence over? And that could probably go a long way. This is very, very early in our summer season. We could have another heat wave come our way. So if we could all be mindful of the fact that our people that could need assistance, we could take them to a cooling shelter. And if you're not able to do that, if they're not mobile and need assistance, we know who to call at the county to help with that, I think. Paul, you have your card up?
Actually, Sonia.
Sonia, you have your, thank you. Commissioner Fisher.
Thank you. I really appreciate those comments a lot because it's very concerning. I was talking with Nancy Bush earlier in between the break to see about, and I think it's called an after-action analysis about, where were the people who had passed? Were they known to us? Did they have connections with social services? Just so we can do a deeper dive. And Nancy had let me know that we're actually in the process of gathering that, and it's just something that I think we need to know about. Mm-hmm. Yes, we had 11. I didn't know there were 11. I had heard there were 10. Mm-hmm. One is too many. Mm-hmm. What we can learn from this will be really, really important. And then the other issue that I'm really concerned about, and I want to make sure we're working regionally and with our state partners, is the failure of 211 to deal with this crisis. I know that we had put out in our communication channels, if you have questions, call 211. A lot easier to do that than to try to give all the information. We had quite a few cooling shelters. Mm-hmm. And that system was broken, from what I understand, on Saturday. And I don't know if we have any information about how we can prevent that in the future.
Well, in Malala, the 911 system was broken, I think on Saturday, is that right? One of the days, and it was the 911 system. I go, what? Are you kidding me? And so I don't know. I don't understand that either. So let's just try to figure that out the best we can. I also asked when we were setting up the cooling shelters last week, I believe, if we had a number on how many people visited the cooling shelters that we set up. The person making the presentation said yes, that they would get us that number. So if staff could follow up with whomever is responsible for that, I would like to know how many people actually visited. And then maybe, we're always working on communications. Always working on communications. People say, well, I didn't know the county had this service, or I didn't know. And so that's the dilemma on everything we do. Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, well, number of things already been shared, so I appreciate that. It's, as a course of action, the medical examiners in the counties will be doing their analysis and not surmising, but getting to the cause of death for those. That'll be good information to have. I think during that hot weather that weekend, I was taken aback at it because I didn't think of it. And what I meant by that, or what I mean by that, is that with intervening gentleman from Multnomah County that was there said I was just too hot in my apartment, and I had to come here to cool off. Because I was thinking, well, I was initially thinking that the cooling centers were folks who probably didn't have a home, right, that are out on the street in the worst of conditions, right out in the elements. But it was a reminder that, in the back east example, when the hot weather comes in the summer, there's a number of heat-related deaths. It's a normal course of action in New York, Chicago, those areas, those high metropolitan areas. And the heat can just last for days and days. Mm-hmm. So this is new for us, maybe it's an anomaly, maybe it's not, but we'll learn from it.
Yeah, we will going forward. Thank you, Commissioners, for your comments on that. Seeing no further comments, Gary?
Well, just a question.
Yeah.
Will we get briefed, or what's our process moving forward so that we are aware of what actually happened?
A lot of information, which we will provide. Whoa, you're asked for a lot of information, which we'll provide back to you. So this was not our, quote, emergency, but we'll get all this data back to you.
Yeah. Thank you. We'll get back.
All right, moving on. Next, American Rescue Plan Act update, our regular weekly update. Nancy Bush, County Operations Officer, and Elizabeth Comfort, Finance Director, will present. Go ahead, please.
All right, good morning, Commissioners. So we have a lot going on with our committee that is looking at ARPA and where we're going to be going with that. The first thing I have for you is our comments are due back for the guidance by the 11th. So what I'm going to go over today is the things that we're going to be putting in the letter that is going to be posted. It will be a public letter, so we can go over that today, and then on Tuesday in issues next week, we'll have the final letter for you for signature for the chair. So the first thing that we are going to be covering in the letter, and we actually have a lot of information in there, is about preparedness. One of the things that they took out of the initial guidance that we saw was actually being able to be prepared for future events, and they've made everything very specific to COVID. So we have an argument in there that is like, for those of us who had many different events this past year, COVID really played a role in how we could respond to those. We couldn't have the sheltering we normally would have had. Moving animals around, having people, coming together and working through those issues. So we are going to put a section in there about preparedness and how we think that that's important. It should be put back in. Do you want me to go through all of them and then agree, or do you want me to have agree to each of them?
And when are you bringing that letter back?
We'll have it Tuesday, but we should have it
I need a draft on Monday, so I can
we'll have
thoroughly
one Thursday.
read it through.
We'll have a draft Thursday.
Commissioner Savas.
Yeah, so the 11th is Sunday, right?
No, it's,
Because the 8th is Thursday.
okay, I'm sorry. It's next Friday. It's a week from Friday.
It's a week from Friday.
I'm
Okay.
sorry. I must have the date.
So
wrong.
I heard
apologize
July
for that.
9th was a date.
That was a date that they sent out early, but when you look on the website, it's actually a week from Friday.
Okay. I was going to ask about that specifically this morning, so you've covered it, and I
Yeah.
think, I think we need to put something in there with regard to housing, and service provision. I mean,
Okay.
as a request, I think that's been echoed around. If some jurisdictions are poised to have excess resources, it'd be a shame to not leverage those for purposes of this housing crisis we're currently in.
Excess
Okay.
resources.
There are some governments that have indicated, or even under the CARES Act, had returned dollars because they didn't use them all.
That's news to me. Interesting.
That's what I heard.
Yeah.
I'm not sure that was, at the national level, that's what I picked up. Maybe we'll learn more at NACO. this
I don't
weekend.
know. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I haven't heard that either.
Yeah.
And some of the CARES dollars goes through the end of the calendar year, so I'd be surprised to hear that right now, but
Okay.
I haven't heard that.
Okay.
Maybe it's just a rumor.
Okay, so we do want, I'm sorry, Commissioner Schiff.
Yeah, I just wanted to point of clarification. What you're doing with this list is what we're sending to the feds about
To the Treasury's Department.
Treasury Department.
Martha,
Say-
they would like you to speak. Thank you.
I just wanted to clarify, it's the information you're giving to the Treasury Department about what would be the most effective.
What we would like to see changed in the guidance.
great.
Right, so the guidance still isn't final, and that we have this comment period. Yeah.
And we will have something at NACO, I've already seen it. They're giving updates and that we can go to the meetings to see what the most current, so that would be great if you can keep us informed.
Okay,
Mr.
absolutely.
Samus?
One thing specific, my colleagues agree, is maybe if there's an opportunity to get shelter facilities erected for whether they're emergencies or for whatever those crises are, it seems to me that this is an opportunity to, in multiple ways, number one, to deal with the initial needs as well as the ongoing needs, and in the event of another emergency, we have those, but
That would go under the preparedness piece that we're working on. That is included there.
Okay,
Okay, other comments before I go to the next one?
go ahead, Nancy.
Okay. And then the second thing that we have that it was brought up is the broadband piece. So what ARPA has done is actually very broad and very liberal with the broadband, and we want to encourage them. We have 3 points that we'll go through to encourage them to keep it broad. A lot of the other grants that are out there, either Clackamas County doesn't qualify for, or there's so few dollars, like there's one, I think it was, that they've saved $285,000 or $1 million, but that's national. So as you can imagine, that's not going to leave a lot for Oregon. So we're going to encourage them to leave it broad so that we can fit more of our broadband needs into ARPA as well. And so so it sounds like I have 3 things: the preparedness, which will make sure the sheltering is in, which I'm pretty sure we've already got that in there, the broadband piece, and then something in there about maybe housing and services. I may have to get a little bit more detail.
housing support
From-
services type of element.
Just to reiterate, is there a guidance for nonprofits?
Oh, yes, nonprofits is in there.
It's already in there.
It's already in there, and
Yeah.
it's fairly liberal around nonprofits as well. So are there any issues, or we'll get the letter to you for sure by Thursday.
The
We'll
only,
get to Gary.
yeah, Nancy, you know this, and maybe this is not for the letter per se, but can you share the legal obligations to make sure that those dollars, the auditing, make sure those dollars are spent the way the guidance is, after the fact,
Yes.
and all of the staffing it takes,
Yeah.
and how that trickles down into the county, the nonprofits, and through the community, make sure that, because there's a misunderstanding. I think that people think that we're holding the bar really high on the CARES Act dollars, but it was the federal government's guidance that required that.
That is correct. So I'll let Elizabeth Comfort answer that, about the auditing piece.
Well, we are tracking all the dollars that we've received, obviously, from the ARPA. We have a special fund, a special grant fund that we've created, and then we'll have project codes for each of the activities how the dollars will be used. So we'll be monitoring it very closely. Krista, our Deputy Finance Director, she is also very aware and keeping up on all the guidelines, because it's very, it's actually the guidelines and the regulations are stricter on these dollars than they were on the CARES.
Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, so it's, we'll be tracking them on the front end, so we don't have to do that on the back end with auditing.
Martha?
So with the nonprofits, then will we be getting metrics are we going to be setting specific metrics that our expectations are for them to meet?
So,
Or
yeah,
just going to-
there'll be criteria that they have to meet, and because
Okay.
these are audited dollars and they are stricter than CARES,
Okay.
we will have to have a monitoring program and an auditing program for
Okay,
for
make
them
sure.
as
Are
well.
we able to get reimbursement for that?
So that is part of what we're asking. The second part we're going to talk about a little bit is next week, we're going to talk about the different, the categories of money and where we want to start spending those. We're not going to have a spending plan for all 81 million, but part of that is for administration, which include from finance, what they need in finance, as well as, I think what we might need for monitoring and those types of things. So we can use some of the dollars, ARPA dollars, to do that. And I've taken a closer look at what Washington County did, for example, and they put like $2.5 million in for that kind of work. I don't think ours is going to be that high. But yes, but we will have to have more staff in order to do this effectively, transparently, and efficiently.
Right. Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, thank you, Chair Smith.
I can see you out of my periphery.
You are so skilled. So I just want to let folks know, I've been trying to gather some information before I make a suggestion. I don't have all the information, but I met with Stephen last week looking at the current COVID dollars that have gone to hotel motel vouchering, that are CARES dollars, and asking some questions to see if it might be possible for us to use some of those dollars as a bridge for our supportive housing services measure, getting to what Commissioner Savas is saying about the need for supportive housing. And hoping to get a clarification at some point today, so we can suggest that the Housing Task Force take a look at that for the future. But I'm not
Which
sure.
housing task force?
Oh, just Martha and Paul, and but
Oh, are the administrators?
yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, we don't have all the details on that. I wanted to make sure when we got it, okay, because we're trying to implement it, we're trying to be conservative about it, okay? We're really just, we want to get it up and running. But my sense is, wouldn't that be a transfer from social services? Am I correct? Isn't social services, it's not going through HAC. The dollars from social services are putting people in the hotels, correct? So would that be?
Ed, would you like to come forward, please?
Yeah.
Or Jill?
And so we'd be replacing backfilling with ARPA dollars if we could, but wouldn't we have to pay that back to social services?
Well, just one thing I'll insert, and then I'll let staff, want to hear
Yeah.
what staff have to say. You know, it's one thing to have a loan, which is more problematic. It's
Right.
one thing to have the money, say, here it is, you can use it. So that's what we're waiting for the guide. I was.
That's what I was waiting for the guidelines for,
we've been
yeah.
waiting.
That we're willing to do it
Everything
if we could,
hinging on
if
the
we know
guidance.
that we're not going against any guidelines from the federal level, yeah.
Yep. So I just wanted to just let folks know that I've been asking questions. I know that Housing Task Force has asked questions. I got today the spreadsheet that shows, because I thought this was true, that with the supportive housing services measure, it's much less to start in the first quarter, and then it would
Yeah, yeah.
get to be more in the third quarter. So I have those numbers now, and we can actually see where the gaps are. But I just got that, just
Okay,
like 10 minutes ago.
Ed, would you like to respond?
Yes, so Ed Johnson with Health, Housing, and Human Services. So yes, currently the contracts are with the Social Services Division for the hotel motel program. The funding that was approved, I believe, the last BCC meeting last week,
Yep.
those dollars would flow through the county, through the director's office, HRS director's office, and then to HAC, who would then work closely with SSD in order to cover those expenses. So contracts are with
that's-
Social Services Division, but the funding would come from the advance from Metro
To social services?
to
Housing authority.
the Housing Authority.
Okay, but, so this is really convoluted.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
talking about potential for using
ARP
ARP, which is why I
dollars.
brought it up now.
You want to use ARP dollars to backfill what we're lacking from Metro's supportive housing services measure, is that correct?
I don't think lacking is the term. I don't know. I've been asking. I met with Stephen. I just want the board to know. I met with Stephen last week. I was wanting information before I suggested it to the board. I have not been able to get all my questions
Well,
answered
we,
to see if that's feasible. But my thought would be that it would just be bridge funding that would be paid back for ARP purposes after we receive the dollars.
Well, even if we're allowed to do that, to me, it would be dependent on how much funding we think we're actually going to get.
Yep.
And that would be a very difficult decision for this board to make. Commissioner Savas?
Yeah, well, we tilled that soil in May, we tilled that soil in June, we tilled that soil many times. We've asked those questions, which is why the memo that Mr. Madcore generated addressed that. And that was a conversation we had during budget, so that's how long we've been at it. So we're trying, yeah.
And
And we're waiting for the guidance to see if we can, what we can do or can't do.
So I guess my question, since everybody's here, Stephen, I mean, do you have from all the questions that we talked about, do you have that information? Because
Come on down, Stephen.
Because I don't have it, and I think a lot of work has been done.
You know, I'm starting to lose my patience a little bit on this issue. Commissioner Fisher. We have regurgitated and regurgitated and it's regurgitated because we don't know, number one, how much money is coming through Metro's supported services measure, and we don't know if we can use ARP money yet. And it's keep being brought forth again and again. I would really like this board, everybody, to wait until we get the information that we have requested time and time again. I don't know that asking Stephen or Nancy or Elizabeth, putting them on the spot in these public meetings is how we get to where we want to go. Stephen, do you have anything edifying to offer?
I would offer that you abandon the words bridging and loans and things along those lines. And if you want to know whether ARPA dollars can be used to aid in the housing of folks who are still experiencing some type of COVID-related aspect, then that's a focus question of which we can, and Nancy and I chatted about that earlier. We have opinions, but a lot of it depends on what is this program you are trying to fund. All I see is a line item that says $4.1 million to house 150 families for 9 months. Has that emergency abated? And if not, why not? We're at the end of this, so is this still an ongoing funding need?
Right.
And that's something that comes from the department. That's not a legal question. That is this program still needed? Is it still have to stay in existence? Do you still need 4.1, or has the demand decreased? Is the dollar ask less? But ARPA dollars do allow for COVID-related housing emergency subsidies, and also allows for, like Nancy said, broadband and a few other things that are more clearly specified. But if you're asking me, can we use ARPA dollars to aid folks in COVID-related things? The answer is yes, but I need to know more substance about what the actual program is.
So what would be required from the board to have that happen?
It's really not from you, it's more from the department itself, and that's what our memos have said. It is, like,
So
Yeah.
is there any specific action that any of our departments can do or take along those lines, or has that been satisfied, Gary? That's
So
what I'm-
we have a committee led by Nancy and Elizabeth that have been working for almost 8 weeks now with every department, asking them, how could we spend this money to advise the Board of Commissioners? That's been happening, and I'm sure H3S has been a part of that process. So I suggest we wait for that committee to report back to you next week with how to spend those dollars, and there you can have your questions answered.
And that's my point. I don't want to continue these conversations when we've already talked about them ad nauseum, possibly giving hope to any jurisdictions or nonprofits. Oh, it's coming. I just think it's more professional for this commission to wait for the experts to weigh in on their analysis of what the ARPA money can be used for from the U.S. Department of Treasury, and our department heads and our financial advisors and our administration and our legal counsel. Because I want to make sure all the I's are dotted and T's are crossed, as I know all of us do. Thank you. Nancy, have you finished your presentation? Okay, thank you very much. We'll move on. Gary.
Okay, next, a review of your business meeting agenda for this Thursday, July 8th. It is an evening business meeting, 6 o'clock p.m. Commissioners Schrader and Fisher will be at the National NACO Conference, so
Yeah, you're not going to be able, yeah.
no.
So you're flying out Thursday? Thursday morning?
Oh, yeah, that would be great, yeah. And so Commissioners Scholl, Savas, and myself need to make sure we show up so we have a quorum. And I don't think that's an issue.
Yes, so the meeting itself right now is only consent agenda items, but there's a long list, and there's more today to request for you. If you do have any questions on any item, please let me know, and we'll answer it before Thursday for you. Next, Canby Area Parks and Recreation District Boundary Change Request. Commissioner Schrader, would you like to tee it off, or would you like me to do that? Okay. So there is a Canby Area Parks and Recreation District. It is a district within the area of Canby. They would like to change their district boundaries for their park district, which requires a vote of the people, which they know, and they're prepared to do all the process that it takes to do that. However, as you are the boundary commission for Clackamas County, there's a step where you would need to approve them moving forward in that process. You are not putting it on the ballot. You are simply giving them authority to move forward with the next steps of making a boundary change. There was a memo that was in your packet. The members have reached out to Commissioner Schrader, and I attended a meeting as well where we were briefed on it. If you decide to move forward, your only request is to meet as the Boundary Commission to review their request and authorize them to move forward with seeking voter approval. You would not be putting it on the ballot. That's kind of the high level. Anything you want to add?
That is the high level,
Yeah.
and they've been working on this for quite a while, and actually it'll help the community tremendously. Because they'll be able to focus their resources on active recreation with the confines of their urban growth boundary.
And so it shrinks the Parks
Yeah.
District
Well,
to
it-
in alignment with the urban growth
Urban
boundary.
growth boundary of Canby, because they have a whole bunch, it was the Blue Heron Rack, we actually were involved in this years ago, that's why they keep calling me about it. It includes a large swath of the unincorporated area, and of course, the unincorporated folks figure, well, we're living in the middle of a park, so why do we, Parks District? And probably, they want to really reduce it, so it's more focused on things like Canby Kids and all the things they do, basketball, baseball, softball, volleyball, the pool, so on and so forth. People from unincorporated areas will probably have to pay higher fees, but that's up to Canby.
Right.
Okay, so
And
to me, it's an easy,
I see in the paperwork, it's going to retain the name Canby Area Parks and Rec District.
Yep.
That's
They're
going to
gonna
be the name,
rename it.
because they've had several names.
used to be blue, yeah. There's been that iteration.
Okay, well, that's fine. Gary, is it required that we make a motion and vote on this?
No, if you agree to move forward, we would schedule a business meeting, presentation, and vote for you at that time.
And who would make the presentation at the business meeting?
Stephen, can you help me? Was this your office or Nate
Nate.
Boderman? County Council's office would,
Come on forward, Nate
or
Boderman,
would you help do this? Come
and
on.
introduce yourself, please.
Nate Boderman, Assistant County Counsel. Typically, County Counsel's office does help process these boundary change-related items. We also have a consultant, Ken Martin, that would do the heavy lifting as far as, reviewing the petition, helping them through the process, because it also involves the State Department of Revenue.
Okay, thank you, Nate. We'll wait for your presentation. Let's go ahead and we'll tee it up in a timely manner so Canby can continue with their new rec district. Thanks a lot for bringing that forward.
They will be so grateful.
Will they?
Yeah, they will.
This is really kind of a no-brainer.
Yeah, but
For us.
well, remember, the folks trying to get the correct information to bring it forward, they wanted to use our county council to do that. And we said, we can't lend you our lawyers. Oh, Chris was the sacrificial lawyer for that. So it's
Okay.
actually going to happen. Yay.
Okay, Gary, what's
All
next?
right, we'll get that scheduled. Thank you. Next, request for consent agenda items. We'll start with Housing Authority of Clackamas County. And is that Jill or Ed or both? All right, I'll read it off. First, approval of a resolution authorizing the Housing Authority's submittal of a Section 18 demolition and disposition application for Hillside Park Public Housing Complex. Estimated cost of $600,000 through HUD Section 8 funding. No county general funds are involved. So whoever's presenting, give a quick update and have anything to add to that, please.
I think that's a good synopsis of what we're asking for. This is just in alignment with the Hillside Park plan that you've already approved. It's just a necessary step with HUD that we have to take, submission of an approved resolution by the board so that we can proceed with that application to demolish and rebuild. And it also allows vouchers to go to all of the 100 residents that are at the property.
Commissioner Savas?
I just want to clarify, this is not the manor we're going to be demolishing, it's these single.
It's the
old-
park.
It's those old
Yeah.
tired housing units that are on the facility.
Yes, which will enable the infrastructure rebuild and the rebuild of the additional 500 units.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, so this action just allows us to demolish, but, I know that we've had vouchers that are given, that are provided to relocate people, but functionally and practically, how does that happen? Where do all those people go, and is that part of this approval today?
We are seeking HUD permission to transition out of public housing through this, it's legally called a Section 18 dispo plan. And part of that is saying, HUD, we want you to approve this, and we're only going to proceed forward if you give us 100 vouchers for the people that are residents there. Without them approving the voucher piece of it as well, we would not proceed There's no reason to think that they wouldn't. It's a strong application, so, but yeah, they're one and the same, both of those pieces. There is funding available for the vouchers to be received by those folks and to pay for a relocation specialist that actually provides moving costs, deposits, assistance, placement, and even retention services for those folks to stay successfully housed. And then when the replacement housing is rebuilt, they have the first option to return before we would rent it to anyone else. So if they choose to come back, they can.
Just one quick follow-up. Given the current state of the market, is there any concerns that people will not be able to find housing within the voucher resources?
That's always a concern, which is why in our plans, we also authorize them to have a preference into public housing units, other public housing units. So if we have somebody who just can't be successful, in the market, if we have an open public housing unit, they will be prioritized over anyone else. So and our affordable housing units as well. We also wrote that in at Commissioner Savis's request that all of the affordable housing units, including, the new one, Rosewood Station, now has that preference for those folks being relocated.
And this is permission to apply for.
Yes.
That's all this is at this
Yep.
point, permission to apply. We don't know if we're going to get it yet.
We don't.
Yeah, thank you. Any other comments? Thank you very much.
All right, next, request approval to execute an intergovernmental agreement between Health, Housing, and Human Services Department and the Housing Authority of Clackamas County to fund the cost of administering the Supportive Housing Services Program, funding through Metro Measure 26210, Supportive Housing Services Fund. So is there a dollar amount attached to this right now? Or is this just an IGA for future dollar transfer?
Just an IGA for future transfers from
Okay.
Metro to.
Okay, so no general funds involved. You're just preparing this in advance for when the dollars do start to come through.
That's
Is this
correct.
referred to as the little IGA?
Yeah, the little IGA between the county and HAC.
I like that.
No, the little IGA is between the county and Metro.
Well, what's
This
this?
is internally between H3S and HAC.
This is a formality because the Housing Authority, the way that the Housing Authority is set up as a separate legal entity, we have to do an IGA for the county to provide HAC funding.
Thank you for that. Any further comments? Seeing none, go for it.
All right, next, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement between the Housing Authority of Clackamas County and Social Services for a case manager for the Housing Our Families program. This adds $36,690 for a total contract of $110,070 over a period of 1 year and 6 months, funded through the Housing Authority of Clackamas County local project funds. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Jill.
That was a really good synopsis of it. This is housing the Housing Authority owns. It's not public housing. It has a preference for homeless families that need services to stay stable. And we're just extending that contract. It's with Social Services.
Good. Any other comments? Seeing none?
All right, next, approval of an amendment with Do Good Multnomah to extend Veterans Village services. $315,009 is the cost, and it is funded through county general funds. Go ahead.
Comments?
The only comment I have, and this is not for today, but in the future, it'd be nice to know with all these changes and knowing how HAC is really expanding its, say, bandwidth, but its operations, nice to know what was placed in H3S and which is now transitioning or vice versa, to have a better grip of that. And just from our notification standpoint, always you already said it, Jill, just recognizing that HAC is its own standalone, say, jurisdiction, but entity that has to be treated as such. So that's where it gets confusing.
And there's something, I'm just going to elaborate just quickly on that since you brought this up. The way Washington County has set up their housing authority, they're within a housing division. So the housing authority is just a piece of that. They can still do other work without it going to the housing authority, which would eliminate a lot of this confusion and the need for all these IGAs. And I would strongly ask you to consider a similar model.
I think that's good for a discussion at a later time, and that we've been having piecemeal discussions, but thank
Yeah.
you for bringing that forward. I don't think today's a proper time for that. Any
I
other
agree.
comments on this particular item, Commissioner Scholl?
Question on, how long does that extension on Veterans Village last? To what date?
It's through December.
Okay.
It gives us time to go through a RFP process, which we need to do.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jill. Next, Health, Housing, and Human Services consent agenda requests. First, approval of an interagency subrecipient agreement with Friends of the Estacada Community Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents. Maximum agreement of $156,647 funded through social services agreements with the Oregon Department of Human Services and transportation agreements with TriMet and Ride Connection. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Ed.
Yeah, these services provided include congregate and home-delivered meals, health promotion activities, transportation, information, and referral services. And if you have further questions, I do have the division directors in the wing, so.
Any comments for this issue? Seeing none, move on.
2, approval of an intergovernmental agreement and amendment with the State of Oregon Department of Human Services, Aging and People with Disabilities Division for the Provisio of the Oregon Money Management Program in Clackamas County. $650,832.49 funded through the state general funds designated for the Oregon Money Management Program. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead, Ed.
All right, the Oregon Money Management Program is a protective service for seniors and disabled adults who receive assistance with managing their finances from trained OMMP volunteers and is offered free of charge to eligible individuals.
Any comments on this? Seeing none?
3, approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Wilsonville Community Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents. Maximum agreement of $118,410 funded through the State Oregon Department of Human Services, Older Americans Act. No county general funds are involved.
Again, this is another, services provided include congregate and home-delivered meals, health promotion activities, transportation, information, and referral services.
Any comments? Seeing none?
Staff in the room, we can hear you whispering, so please go outside. All right, number 4, approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with Legal Aid Services of Oregon to provide housing rights and referral and legal assistance for Clackamas County residents. Maximum agreement of $81,197 funded through community development block grants and the Older Americans Act. No county general funds are involved.
Okay. Social Services Division is requesting approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with Legal Aid Services to provide Clackamas County residents with housing rights and referral services and legal assistance services.
Any comments? Seeing none?
5, approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the City of Gladstone Senior Center to provide social services for Clackamas County residents. Maximum agreement of $56,058 funded through the Older Americans Act and Ride Connection pass-through funds. No county general funds are involved.
Services provided include congregate and home-delivered meals, health promotion activities, transportation, information, and referral services.
Any comments? Seeing none?
6, approval of an intergovernmental subrecipient agreement with the Senior Citizen Council of Clackamas County to provide social services for residents of Clackamas County. Maximum agreement of $160,784 funded through the Older Americans Act and general funds. Go ahead, Ed.
Okay. Services include guardianship, conservatorship, guardianship, diversion, and case management.
Any questions or comments? Commissioner Scholl.
How much of that comes out of the general fund?
Brenda, I don't have that number with me. Let's see if Brenda can.
Later.
Later?
Yes.
We'll get that to you.
Okay, general.
May I move on?
Yes,
All right.
I see no other comments. Please move on.
7, requesting approval to execute an intergovernmental agreement between Health, Housing, and Human Services Department and the Housing Authority of Clackamas County to fund the cost of administering the Supportive Housing Services Program, funding through Metro Measure 26210, Supportive Housing Services Fund. So this is the partner to the one you just authorized with HAC.
Any comments on this? Seeing none?
8, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the State of Oregon acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for operation as a local public health authority for Clackamas County. Maximum contract of $2,799,273 funded through the State of Oregon. No county general funds are involved.
This renewal agreement represents the base funding for public health programs in Clackamas County, which include HIV prevention services, tobacco prevention and education, and women, infants, and children WIC services.
Any comments? Seeing none?
9, approval of an intergovernmental agreement with the Sandy Fire District for medical direction. Maximum contract value of $7,350 funded through the Emergency Medical Services Coordination. No county general funds are involved.
This agreement will help ensure that Sandy Fire District first responders meet requirements and protocols for the provision of EMS care.
Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, I'm just curious, where does the emergency dollars come from? Is that state, federal? Is that from property taxes that go to fire districts?
Let me see if Philip is in.
Okay, we can answer it later. Don't
Yeah.
let us
So
hold
there's
us up.
there's no Zoom presenters, so we'll have to
Yeah,
get that.
everything
I
is
believe
in
it's through
person.
our ambulance contracts is my
I think so.
This is my
I'm
thought.
I'm just interested, so this does not, it's not, I'm going to vote for it on the consent agenda.
Okay, I'll stop
I
saying
just
that
would
in.
like
I'm
to know.
thinking someone's in the.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, no
How's
other
it funded?
further comments, please continue.
Great questions. Number 10, approval of a local subrecipient grant agreement with Metropolitan Family Services to continue to provide kindergarten readiness partnership and innovation services. The amendment adds $35,423 for a maximum value of $168,718 and is funded through the Oregon Department of Education and Oregon State University Success Act funds. No county general funds are involved.
Metropolitan Family Services provides culturally responsive programs to help children and parents with transitioning successfully into kindergarten.
Any comments?
Do we know how many children it serves?
How many children it serves,
No.
Ed? Do you know? Okay, would you bring that information back?
I can do that.
Any other comments?
Yeah, I'll just make a comment that it's really interesting right now with young children being re-socialized back into classroom settings because many of them have only been socialized during COVID, which means they weren't really socialized at all. So
I think that will be an issue,
these services are very important.
issue with preschool as well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's what I'm
definitely.
thinking of.
No other comments? Please continue.
11, approval of a subrecipient grant amendment with Oregon City Together for youth marijuana and substance abuse prevention efforts in Clackamas County. Amendment adds $30,000 for a maximum value of $120,000, extending it through June 30th, 2022, and is funded through marijuana tax revenue. No county general funds are involved.
The program goals of these services are to increase awareness of the effects of marijuana and other drugs, educate PTA, businesses, city councils, and service clubs throughout Clackamas County, and incorporate anti-marijuana campaigns.
Any comments? Seeing none?
12, approval of a subrecipient grant agreement with Oregon Impact for youth marijuana and substance prevention efforts in Clackamas County. Amendment adds $30,000 for a maximum value of $120,000, extending it through June 30th, 2022, and is funded through marijuana tax revenue. No county general funds are involved.
Any comments? Seeing none?
13, approval of a cooperation agreement between Clackamas County and Next Steps Strategies Incorporated for acquisition of property. Clackamas County will cover $240,000 through the Community Development Block Grants, and Next Steps will cover $170,000 for a total purchase price of $410,000. No county general funds are involved.
Ed, is there a parcel of property that has been targeted for this money?
Is Mark's? Here's Mark.
Come up, sir, and please state your name and the division you work for.
Commissioners, my name is Mark Soroy. I work with the Community Development Division. So Next Step Strategies has a parcel of property that has specialized housing off of Tolbert Road, 82nd Avenue and 224. And the parcel of property we're purchasing is next door to their existing property, so they're
Nice.
going to expand their campus for specialized housing.
Nice. Is that vacant property?
It is, a willing seller is
Okay.
selling it,
And vacant property?
vacant.
Thank you very much. There's no structures is what I meant to say.
Oh, I'm sorry, there is a house and a garage.
So they're going to build something else on
But
it?
they're going to keep the existing house and garage and kind of incorporate that into their campus.
Nice.
And possibly build something later on, but for now, they're going to keep the existing house and garage.
Nice, very nice. Commissioner Fisher?
I see the address here. So Tolbert Street, 89th, Tolbert, Clackamas. So is that like in the industrial area?
No, it's a residential area, but it's next to the new Sunnyside Bridge that was built
Okay.
into 82nd Avenue.
Okay.
And then Tolbert goes all the way to the 205, ends right there.
Okay.
And it's next to the Sunnyside Elementary School that's currently owned by our Parks and
North Clackamas Parks and Recreation. Yeah.
Yes.
And when you say, this says low income, but you said specialized housing, what type of specialness? Is
So
there-
Next Step Strategies works with people on the autism spectrum. So they have specialized housing for them and possibly their adult caretakers. So that they have a plan for later on to build apartments just for the adult caretakers so that the adults on the autism spectrum can live there in kind of a smaller unit of their own and have kind of shared activities.
Okay.
It's a great facility, it's new, and I think there's a featured piece on the news about that as well, so watch it go up.
Thank you.
Like to visit it.
No other comments? Go ahead.
Okay, 14, approval of an amendment to an intergovernmental agreement with the state of Oregon, acting by and through its Oregon Health Authority for the operation and financing of community mental health, addiction treatment, recovery and prevention services, and problem gambling programs. Amendment adds $340,347 for a maximum value of $9,086,559.18, funded through the Oregon Health Authority. No county general funds are involved.
Wow. Any comments? Seeing none? Oh, Commissioner Scholl.
Is that going to be administered through the Clackamas Mental Health Services Center on 82nd? Is that how that gets administered? I'll get with you later.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. That's good.
I don't want to say yes, and then it's a contract.
We'll
Because they
confirm
may
that.
contract out for these services.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right.
Gary?
Good job, Ed. So Ed, could you compile the 4 questions the board asked today and email the entire board when you have those answers before Thursday, please?
Thank you very much for your presentation.
Thank you, Ed. And next, Water Environment Services. Greg and Chris. First, approval of a contract between Murray Smith Incorporated for engineering design services for the Force Main on I-205, $500,000 funded through WES funds. No county general funds are involved. Go ahead.
All right, thank you. Greg Geis, Clackamas Water Environment Services Director. Thank you, Chair Smith and Commissioners. The first item here is a design and engineering services request for the Force Main over the I-205 bridge. This opportunity arose recently. We are requesting it for the consent agenda on Thursday. We did a study back in 2019 of our collection system and capacity issues and realized that we needed to upsize and upgrade the under river crossings from West Lynn. And recently, we had a cost estimate of $25 to $30 million for that work. Recently, we were talking to the city of West Lynn and realized that they have a water pipe, drinking water pipe, going on the new I-205 bridge. Excuse me. So we approached ODOT, and they agreed to let us potentially hang a pipe on the bridge when they build it, which would be a much cheaper option. This engineering firm, Murray Smith, is doing the work for West Lynn on their pipe, and so we would like to use them for ours. We had to go through a special procurement process for a single vendor. We did that, and now we're asking for your approval.
Which bridge is this?
The new I-205 bridge.
The Abernathy Bridge.
Okay, Abernathy. Yeah,
Yes.
it's not new anymore. So, anyway.
Well, it's
Commissioner Fisher.
No,
Part of the, it's going to be part of the expansion.
Of the new retrofit, the.
Widening, yes.
Okay, so.
You
it's
mean the Abernathy Bridge or on Sunnyside Road, that expansion?
The Abernathy Bridge.
So this is part of the new earthquake refit, what do we call that? Whatever.
My understanding is
Retrofitting,
it's part of
yes.
the widening
Seismic
project.
and widening.
Seismic upgrades, yes.
Seismic and
Right.
widening.
Okay.
And we didn't, I don't think we thought to approach ODOT earlier because we've approached them about the Arch Bridge in Oregon City, and they were not interested in letting us hang another pipe on that bridge. But we need to move fast if we're going to do it. So that's
Well,
what
when
we're
do they
asking for.
expect construction to begin on the
Well,
Abernathy?
the final design is going to be in August.
Okay, I see.
So they'll be at 90% design in August.
That's why we
and-
have to move fast.
Yep.
Okay. And this, you want this placed on the agenda for July 8th? I don't have a problem with that, Gary. Any other commissioners?
Okay, we'll add it to this Thursday for that item. Next, approval to terminate an agreement with Park Place Development Incorporated, and Water Environment Services.
This is the company that owns what is now the golf course area next to Home Depot at the junction of 213 and 205. That is the old Rossman landfill. They had a requirement from us for the discharge of leachate from the landfill into our sewer system. They met the conditions and ceased discharging that leachate in 2006, but this agreement sort of hung out there for a while. There's a potential for development in the area, and they're trying to clean things up. They approached us about terminating the lien in the agreement. They've met all the conditions, so we're happy to put that forward.
Okay. Great, any other comments?
What happened to your wrist?
I have no good story, I'm sorry.
Another time.
Okay, very good, thank you. Next, Business and Community Services, Tom will present this one. Approval of an amendment to the MOU between Business and Community Services and the Hoodland Women's Club to extend time to transfer properties to a local park district upon its formation. This has a long history. Commissioners, you may remember. Tom, can you give a brief, high-level overview?
Yes, Tom Riggs, Parks and Forestry Manager, Business and Community Services. We oversee just shy of 4-acre parcel in Hoodland, called Hoodland in Welch's, site of the former Dorman Community Center, which was demolished in 2017. And we're looking to surplus that property when we were approached by the Hoodland Women's Club wanting to form a Parks District. And there was an MOU entered into with BCC approval to give them until the November of 2020 ballot to form a Parks District. Then the pandemic hit, they requested an extension, they're requesting another extension to get to the May of 2022 ballot. And so certainly understand the challenges they've faced during this time and understand pushing back the target date, but we also would like to see a decision and path forward determined soon. So we recommend this be the last extension, but do support approving the extension through the May 31st, 2022, and ask to clarify that this is the final extension of this MOU.
Any comments on this item, Mark?
Does a Hoodland Women's Club, are they aware of the deadline on this extension? This is being the last one?
It has been communicated that, I don't know for sure if they've been told this will be the last one. That's why we're asking that it be clarified with them. They know that the original, everything was subject to approval to get additional extensions. So they've already had a couple deadlines come and go. And so we would clarify with them, this is the final one if the board approves that.
Okay.
Thank you. No other comments? Go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Tom. Next, North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District, Heather will present. Milwaukee Bay Park Project Design Services Contract Amendment with 2 Inc. Studio Landscape Architecture. Amendment value is $643,536 for a total project cost of $9,600,000. $533,941 is funded through system development charges, and $109,595 through North Clackamas Parks and Recreation District general funds. There are no county general funds involved in this. This also is a request for this Thursday's business meeting. Heather, go ahead.
Thank you. The contract was first approved in 2018, and this was an anticipated amendment to continue work. And the total project cost that, I just want to clarify, that you read it as 9.6, that's the total project cost, not the total contract cost. So the total contract cost with the amendment is 809,574, and we had originally in phase 1 expended 159,000 rounded. So just wanted to clarify that. That total project cost was estimated and shared in 2019, so this is just a normal part of progressing the project. And I'm happy to answer any questions.
Any comments for the presenter?
So is we're just going to till that soil again as far as what's contingent upon the agreements, and you said 800,000?
In the total contract value is 809 with this amendment, 809,574.
Okay, it doesn't say that here.
It says it in the report, in the staff report, and in the amendment itself. The summary box just have a 643,536 because that's the amendment total.
Okay, what I was under the impression was that at this point, this would be a $100,000 amendment, but I see it's including 533 in SDCs plus 109. So that's the ask. It's the total of the 533 plus the 109.
Yes, that's the amount that supports the design services to complete the project.
Okay, so it wasn't that. I was under the impression of the 100,000. That was the risk that we were taking absent an agreement, a working agreement. Not 643,000.
Yeah, the work involves design development, which brings it from the current schematic design through 50%, 100% design development, and then 50%, 95%, 100% construction documents. And that includes permitting, all the permitting, the land use approvals, and additionally, potentially developing a parallel, what's called an early work package, which is something we do with work if you can start a piece earlier. But none of the additional task of construction administration that is in this contract is approximately $100,000, and that no task would be triggered until we approve it, but that task in particular wouldn't be triggered until we were ready for construction. And that, as we've talked about in past sessions, that would require having all funding secured, having an IGA with the city, having our SDCs discussed, all of those necessary triggers, all of our permits. So there's a nice way of us kind of gauging each task as it goes forward. But what this amendment does is it approves the work to move forward into the next phase of design development.
Yeah. And I don't want to belabor this or make this any more complicated than it needs to be, but the other issue, unsettled issue, is the SDCs and that they were on this, quote, SDC Zone 1, and there's a strong feeling that Zone 1 doesn't really exist, and a number of other things. So my question is, does this have to be done this week?
We are trying to start the project in order to preserve the ability to construct next year, so we need kind of at this point pretty much every week of lead time in order to make our deadlines for construction next construction season. Of course, things happen to projects, but it's a real cost at this point to delay and miss our construction window. The SDCs in particular, we have talked before about how once our DAC got up and running, we would bring the SDC conversations to our board, not our board, excuse me, to our district advisory committee. And so they're onboarding right now. We have our second meeting with them next week. And so we will be bringing SDCs to them. I think it is planned for September, so we can have a more robust discussion about SDCs generally, including the SDCs that we are planning to spend for this project.
Can this wait a week? Because I'd like to see the more detailed documentation and better understand the SDC element of this. My understanding is it was $100,000 that we would be potentially putting at risk.
Paul, I'm a bit concerned that delaying this project 1 week could cause the city of Milwaukee a lot of angst, and it could cause them to take an action that we're not prepared to deal with.
That's the complication. The complications here is that we've been working, trying to get an agreement, and there's not much progress. Actually, if there's been a delay, that's where the delay is coming from.
Commissioner Fisher?
Well, that was my question. Was what Commissioner Savas was saying. What's the status of the agreement, and what's the holdup with the agreement?
You're asking about the IGA specifically. We are at the point of identifying issues and concerns, so pretty preliminary in order to negotiate in good faith. So we're not actually negotiating the IGA itself yet. We're talking about the issues and who has concerns about what, whether it's maintenance or how we add lists or subtract lists from the portfolio of NCPRD parks. So we're in that phase right now, which is a pretty heavy-duty phase of looking at a lot of different details. So that work is progressing. We've talked with the city, we've met with the city, and we have communicated to them that the deadline we would like to meet for that IGA is the spring, because we want to be able to have that IGA safely in place prior to construction.
The spring? Which spring? Next year?
This coming spring.
See, that's just another new piece of information, because the progress that I was given a week ago indicated to me that it's not very much in the way of progress. I'm not challenging you at all, so I'm not here to put anyone on the spot, but I'm very concerned that we keep on getting the ask, we keep on spending the money, and the contract that we've been trying to work on has not come forth. and that there actually has been somewhat potentially a delay, not on our part.
What will 1 week buy us?
I don't know. I think it might give us some clarity as far as when do we tap the brakes? If our partner is not willing to move forward with an IGA, when do we tap the brakes? How much money do we spend?
So what you're saying is, since there's no IGA, we're spending the money, no guarantee that they'll be cooperative.
Is that true,
what you're saying?
Heather?
Theoretically, we need the IGA to move forward on the project. We both need it as partners, but we have a cooperative IGA in place today that allows us to do the work. It's just that, as Commissioner Savas has pointed out, there is a strong desire to revise that IGA in order to clarify different parts of the agreement.
Protect our investments in case the city withdraws.
So,
And we do have SDCs. We do routinely expend SDCs in this way, but we did draw a hard line at the board's request to not expend funds for construction.
so is there
we're-
willingness on the city of Milwaukee to upgrade or update the IGA?
Yes, we've talked directly with them about it, and we're proceeding, we've already been proceeding with meetings and discussions since
What's the
early in the
delay?
year.
What is the delay?
At this point, it's just identifying issues, and quite frankly, we still have some leadership transition, so that it helps for us to get transition.
Who's the leadership transition in Milwaukee?
Oh, no leadership
On
transition.
the
in Milwaukee.
DAC, you mean?
The new DAC, and we have a new director coming in for
The
NCPRD as well.
The DAC will not be involved with the IGA.
So we have a new
IGA
director for
negotiations.
our department coming on board.
Correct.
Thank you for that, Paul. And Gary, what's your recommendation?
Commissioner Savas is correct. He has asked for this information for a while. Our staff is working on this. It's taking longer than any of us would have hoped. I am concerned about our relationship with the city of Milwaukee. I will say that openly, publicly. I'm concerned. This is a project that was approved a long time ago. It's part of the master plan of the Parks District. I totally respect and hear what everyone's saying. I'm concerned that even a week's delay will impact the relationship with a very important partner of ours. That's
So
my opinion.
I think the question really is that when do we tap the brakes? We continue to invest money, and there's no guarantee that those monies won't be stranded. These are district assets, and we have to work in the best interest of the district. We have asked for the agreement for way back last year. And so what I learned recently was we're not making much progress. I'll just simply say that it doesn't feel like we're making progress to me. And maybe
Well,
we need to speak to
what
Mr.
if,
Mons.
I'm going to offer up, what if we approve this today, go forward this Thursday, and give very clear instruction, no more until the IGA is done? I mean, that can be a board vote right now. It sends a very clear message. We've been asking, and we have one excuse. We're done.
And this actually does speak to that. This is the last piece to put in place for the board to approve before we go into construction. So once we have a design contractor in place, we have a small pre-construction contract doesn't come to the board. It's a small amount. We wouldn't expend a large amount for any additional contract until construction, until we meet all those requirements for construction.
I appreciate you saying that.
I'm sorry.
I appreciate you saying that. The construction piece of it was not, I don't think, a clear delineated line as to the investment. Because the investments, as you know, engineering and all these, that's still a lot of money. So I think we have been trying, Chair, to work in good faith. And I really believe that if both sides work in good faith, we can settle this and get these arrangements and these agreements underway. I am here working under good faith,
Yeah.
openly and honestly.
Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah, thank you. Chair Smith, I appreciate your suggestion. I'm also wondering, and I don't know if this is an option, I'll give you the basis for where my concern is. So my concern is we went through this with Happy Valley, and it was not fun going through, trying to figure out what went where. I'm just curious if this approval has us saying, okay, these SDCs are allocated for this purpose. how can we put some safeguards in at this place that if there's something that would trigger an event in the future, that if there was a withdrawal, that we would get
That's what the concern
those
is.
resources back. And especially, and I don't know the answer, Commissioner Savas does know, because he is so involved in this. So when he has angst, I really listen to that, because if there is a concern that the SDCs weren't from a certain zone and it's going to benefit a certain area, then that's a real concern that maybe we could hammer out at this juncture. Just a suggestion. I don't know if that's a realistic suggestion.
I think the agreement, so there's a two-part process with the IGAs. One is to have what I would non-technically refer to as a more simple IGA, which just covers construction, and the more comprehensive IGA that's an update to our cooperative agreement. It is possible that with the construction IGA, if we were not ready to move forward into the cooperative IGA fully, we could potentially put terms of investment into the construction IGA itself. It really belongs in the cooperative IGA, but that all was those agreements typically take place for the construction phase, not for this phase of designing and pre-construction. Typically, design and pre-construction, we are, working forward as part of our planning and design process. I will say that the city has come forward in good faith as far as my work with them to date, where we have met and we have had several meetings to, initiate this discussion and identify issues, which has been a really important first step, because it's hard to negotiate until we know what we want to really negotiate about. So, does that answer your question? I think construction is the right place for it. I think right now, if we, it would be pretty atypical to have a IGA for the design phase. Typically, we would, in our cooperative IGA, we're just authorized to do design, and they're authorized to do design, and we.
Thank you, Heather. Thank you, Heather. Gary, you have a comment?
Two quick updates. So Milwaukee actually does have a leadership change as well, because Councilor Parks used to be the Parks liaison, and she is no longer on the council, so they've identified a new city councilor to be the Parks liaison, and they're having their city council retreat in July, and they've asked to wait for that to finish before they re-engage full force with our IGA discussion. So that'll be in early August. The city council will come back to us.
Commissioner Salas, did I interrupt?
Yeah, so one last thing. So it's okay. Just, I can count like all you can. There's only going to be 3 of you here on Thursday. So Paul, if you're not comfortable going forward, there's not 3 votes to go forward. So why don't we just hold it a week? But what would you like to have answered in the next week to give you comfort for next week?
Progress, maybe an executive session on Tuesday with Mr. Munns, because Mr. Munns, we were under the impression months ago that this would not be that big of a deal. There was not that much. Again, this has been going on since last year and the year before. Again, these are scarce resources. NCPRD, as a result of Happy Valley pulling out, has left the district in a vulnerable financial position. So every dollar is more scarce than it was prior to the exit of Happy Valley. I'm sorry, but that's the fact.
Thank you. Commissioner Fisher?
Yeah, I'm interested in knowing, because to me, maybe it doesn't seem like a lot of money, but it seems like a lot of money in SDCs to me, the 563.
Well, it's 644,000, but only.
Or 1,000.
Yeah.
It's 533, 941 system development charters. I just want to make sure that those are tied, and maybe I just need to see the maps of the different zones and how that all works jurisdictionally, and that resources for certain areas are invested in certain areas. I guess
The zones don't exist.
Well, according.
They're identified as zone one.
See,
These dollars.
it's just a concern for me when we look at how we're allocating all of the resources.
Would you like me to clarify just a quick thing? So the current policy for SDCs has 3 zones, and it is something we do want to discuss with our DAC, because there is a way to convert that back to what was intended before Happy Valley was in and out of the district. As it stands today, the policy is that there's 3 zones, and the money, the SDCs that are in the Zone 1 would support this project in Zone 1, even though it's a district-wide project that theoretically is a district-wide resource, but it would still be Zone 1 going to Zone 1.
Commissioner Schrader.
Sorry. So if Happy Valley pulls, then the project does not go forward, correct? Milwaukee, excuse me. Happy Valley, I'm having a flashback with Happy Valley. And I think the issue is spending the money ahead of time without an agreement with the planning is, yeah, I understand that, but I'm afraid, or I'm concerned that if we don't go forward with it now, they'll just walk, and what will that do to the district anyway? They'll just have all this money for something else? I mean, rather than an amenity in Milwaukee?
Well, I think there's a willingness to
You know.
complete the Milwaukee Bay
Yes.
project on Milwaukee's side,
Very much.
because it's really to their huge benefit. By the way, they already have a nice park, just saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not like they can't use their existing facilities, but I think Gary makes a point, commissioners. We have three for a quorum on Thursday, and if one commissioner is not satisfied with anything on this, it won't go. So,
Okay.
I'm just, just so you know, I'll make it public, I have had my staff reach out to the new city councilor to try to introduce it. Haven't had that happen yet. We haven't made that meeting happen yet, but the effort's been made. And so I've been anxious to do that. I just need some kind of a sign that,
so
you know,
let's
there's
hold this
mutual
off.
benefit. I can maybe call up the mayor and have a conversation with the mayor.
I think you
but-
better do that, so they don't start seeing zebras, because they probably.
We have all experience, including Gary, some communications from Milwaukee that are concerning. We're trying to work in good faith. I think it's a great project. I'd like to see the project built. I publicly support the project, but we need to protect the interests of the districts and the district assets that are.
Well, I don't want to take it to, look, people, I don't want to take this to the business meeting, have Paul yank it, and then it's very public.
I get it. Yeah.
Public, so either it's a yes or no. So we
I would
need
say
to move forward, yes or no.
I would say take it off then.
Okay, we'll wait 1 week.
Yep,
We will wait 1 week, be very clear on this, within 1 week. Something needs to be done, and they need to reach out and make an appointment with Commissioner Savas. Paul has been reaching out. Our new director, yes, I understand he's new, he needs to give this more attention. He really needs to understand the political and ownership ramifications to this. He needs to understand what happened in Happy Valley, and he needs to give it his attention. So.
And he doesn't start till August, so.
August
Oh, I thought he was on board.
No.
He's moving to our lovely county, so.
So who's in charge?
Candy Ho is our acting director,
Well,
and
then
Sarah
she-
Ekman is our BCS interim
Okay,
director.
well, I know Sarah, so maybe they need to, oh dear, okay.
So as an action item, oh, go ahead.
Sorry, respectfully, this is at the political level, so one of you commissioners needs to call the mayor of Milwaukee at the lunch break today. Who's going to do that?
Paul, I designate you.
Yeah, I have 2 phone calls during lunch. I'll try to add a third.
All right, give it to me. Somebody give me I will call the mayor of Milwaukee at lunch today.
Yeah.
And tell him it is urgent. We'll bring it back this afternoon, possibly, if we can get any answers. I doubt that will happen. Somebody write talking points for me, so I don't step in it. And,
Well, Tootie, if you want, I'll try to call the mayor.
Well,
So maybe
you know-
I can put off one of my phone calls.
well, no, I'll do it. As the chair, I will do it. I'm going to say, there's been great discussion with my Board of County Commissioners, if we move forward on this, and it is a political hotbed. It could be.
Well, it's the happy, we're kind of,
Reacting to that, yeah.
reacting because of the issue that we went through, which was hellish with Happy Valley and them leaving. and
So,
all
Paul,
that
I
stuff.
think maybe we both can call.
Sure. Well, sure. Prior to Happy Valley pulling out or the legislature, we had a project underway that we built, Hidden Springs.
Yep.
Okay? That's probably one of the greatest parks, assets, and we invested a whole lot of money, and then they left the district and took the asset.
Yep. So they have the asset that we built.
That's right.
And of course, we've never done
All right, so here's what staff has heard. This is not on the consent agenda for this Thursday. We'll tentatively have it for next Thursday. We'll have an executive session discussion on the IGA status this coming Tuesday, and then Chair Smith and Commissioner Savas will reach out to the mayor of Milwaukee over the lunch break.
And can I
You
just
and I
make
will have
just one more point in the, for background, is that we do have an IGA for transfer of funds from the city of Milwaukee in the amount of $250,000 of their general fund for the construction phase. So we do have that, that in place, and that also alludes to them contributing part of their metro local share. So it's just, it kind of is part of the background of where we have tried to work together and where they are.
I understand that, but if my math memory serves me right, and maybe you can help, City of Milwaukee's share on this particular project is very, very small. On the overall 9.6 million, their
Proportionally.
contribution is very, very small, and it's the county, through its efforts and its grant funding, is funding the majority of this park. Correct?
Well,
The district
well,
phase.
the district.
The district.
The district share of the investment in the park is probably greater than Milwaukee's.
Well,
but
it's
there's a lot of
hugely
other
greater.
grants, external grants that are funding this, so it's.
I understand.
It's greater than the district's investment. Is that fair?
The district investment.
The grants are greater than the district, or the district is greater than the city?
The grants are greater than the district's investment.
I think it's probably about on par.
Okay.
It's probably even.
Yeah, it's probably about even. and
But
there-
who goes and gets the grants? It's the district.
district.
It's the power behind the district because of its entity is able to do that. Correct.
And NCPRD did collaborate with the city on the last phases of development, but those were led and funded by the city. So the previous phases of work at that park were city-led and funded, including with grants, so.
Okay, so Commissioner Savas will talk before I make my phone call. Thank you very much.
Please let me know if you need anything from me.
Thank you, Heather. I'm sorry you had to go through all
No
this.
worries, no worries.
Okay.
I understand.
Okay, Gary.
Very good, thank you. Next, Transportation and Development, Dan, come on down. First, a board order adopting the vacation of a portion of Johnson Road, road number 1374, Revenue Road Fund, no general funds. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Chair, Commission, first an apology for the whispering at the back of the room. I hadn't seen Chris in like a year and a half, and I was talking about his typing injury, and that's how it happened. We'll
That's
talk
important.
about it. Yes, we're here today to talk about the vacation of a portion of Johnson Road right away. Basically, this portion of Johnson Road was dedicated to the county back in August 30th of 1930, was never opened, was never used, and essentially we have a request to vacate it. We've coordinated with utilities, local utility companies, our engineering, planning, transportation maintenance, and there is no objection to advance this vacation of this right-of-way.
So we own it, we're vacating it?
Yes, we are.
Where does it
We
go?
own an easement.
We own an easement, so where does it go? Where does the vacation go?
Well, my vacation from Destin, Florida, if you guys ever want to go to Destin, Florida, best place in the world.
So this easement reverts back?
Correct.
Okay.
We lose the public's use of that portion of the right-of-way.
Thank you very much. Any other comments? Seeing none, go ahead.
All right, number 2, approval of a resolution declaring the public necessity and purpose for acquisition of rights-of-way, easements, and fee property for the Canby Ferry ITS project and authorizing good faith negotiations and condemnation actions. Right-of-way budget for the project is estimated to be $63,000. The project total cost is $889,024. The county road fund and the federal ferry boat discretionary funds pay for this. No general funds involved. Go ahead.
That is correct. So Clackamas County received federal ferry boat discretionary funds to construct an advanced traffic management system to remotely monitor and control Canby ferry boat ramps and traffic signals and existing advanced electronic roadway signs approaching the ferry ramps. Essentially, in order to construct this improvement as designed, we anticipate there will be 2 properties that will possibly be impacted by the project. This authorization allows the department to negotiate in good faith in accordance with all applicable laws, rules, and regulations. I want to be clear, with every one of these we do, this is not an authority to condemn. If there is any action that needs to take place, we'll bring it in front of the Board of County Commissioners at executive session for discussion.
Have the property owners been notified?
Not yet. They will be, we cannot have a discussion with them until this action is complete.
I see.
Yep. I believe so. Yeah. And this is a project that's been around for a while. We're excited to get moving on it. So.
Okay, maybe we shouldn't not mention names yet, but yes, any other comments on this? Seeing none, thank you, Dan.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Martha.
All right, that is the request for consent agenda. Finally, today is Commissioner Communications.
Okay, who wants to go first?
First.
Commissioner Schull.
Yes, last week we had a town hall with Senator Merkley I thought it was very interesting.
It was.
The part that I liked the most was the portion about housing. And I was very happy to hear Senator Merkley say that he felt that we cannot continue to build 300,000 plus per unit affordable housing projects. And he spoke about efficiency unit projects and his desire to work with HUD to work towards changing those regulations. If we can encourage the senator to do that, and those regulations provided for the construction of living units that are affordable at a fraction of that $300,000, we could have the potential to get many more people in housing. And also, if we could use the same zoning that would come from that to provide for free market housing that are efficiency units, I think that'd be very positive for the future of housing in Clackamas County. So again, I really like that town hall with Senator Merkley.
That was good, I remember that.
It was. And I'd like to thank the board of the Lad Hill CPO. They met with me last week and talked to me about the Lad Hill area. It was very interesting. And way on the western end of Clackamas County. And also this morning, Bill Mark from the Stafford Hamlet came in and talked to me about the Stafford area, which is a very interesting area. And as you know, there's a lot of pressures on that for growth. Some people want growth. Some people want to keep the rural farmland as it is. So I really enjoyed that, and I look forward to getting out there and meeting with them on their next CPO meetings. And that's all I have.
Thank you. Commissioner Schrader.
Well, I think Paul and I attended the Willamette Falls Legacy Project meeting with the partners, and we did not come to a decision yet whether or not we should let the trust come in as a partner. So that's still in the works. The issue is that they have a tribal piece, and the Grand Ron is the owner of the property, but they are not necessarily involved in the trust's tribal kind of consortium. And I think that, from my perspective, I think that's something that's going to have to be worked through very carefully.
And so what efforts are being taken to work through that? It seems to me that's an issue.
I'm going to be, and I just got an email today from Gerard from the trust, because I mentioned in the meeting that I would be glad to speak to the other tribes. So I was going to try and go to them and say, what is it? Because I do think that if you're going to have, I believe it's very important for all the tribes to be involved. And the fact that the Grand Ron is the owners at this point, yeah, they own it, but they're all sovereign nations and they all need to be working together if they want to cooperate. But they are the owner. So it's a little bit of the cultural issues, I guess, I would say.
Okay.
So I don't know what you would say, Paul.
Paul, you want to add?
Yeah.
Got to agree with Commissioner Schrader. I just add that one thing that we spoke to and recognized during the meeting, that there's 9 governments involved here.
Right.
4 of them being, well, I'll just name them. There's the Oregon City, Clackamas County, Metro, and the state, and then the other 5 are the other tribes. And we need to get all of us, whatever the venue is, all of the tribes at the table, because bringing in 1, 2, 3, or 4 might result in the exclusion of another, and we need to find something where we all come together. So that's the goal.
We had talked about maybe doing some kind of a retreat conversation.
Yeah.
Maybe making a suggestion.
Yep, made the suggestion, the Oregon City Mayor agreed with the suggestion perhaps that maybe there's a retreat or a summit amongst these particular groups and governments, and talk about a way to just bridge that. But I think it's important to make sure that we're inclusive, and we don't make a step that basically forces or not forces another tribe to withdraw, but generates any more animosity. We can't build on that. We need to bridge, not divide. So we need to be part of the solution. It's very difficult, a lot of diplomacy. I think we'll get there. It'll just take some time.
Well, I've never worked with a sovereign nation before, so I'm kind of wondering if we're It's got to be a new experience. What can I say? Sovereign nations, I should say. So that's
Thank you.
something else.
Paul, since you're talking, you want to go next?
I would just say that it was a much quieter 4th of July. I did get I thought of kudos to staff, but I'll just say that I got a phone call from one of our constituents in Clackamas County, and she was very upset because from her perspective, the county had done nothing to speak to the resolution we approved on Thursday as far as that we didn't advertise it, we didn't. I go, well, it's been on all the news channels. I know our staff put out a public release, and while she's talking, I'm listening to her, because there's nothing on your website. I found it on the website. I go, by the way, not only is it under latest news, but I pointed to her that the resolution is, and everything she spoke to was actually addressed. So appreciate staff getting the word out, that we used all the mediums we could to get the word out about the fireworks ban. And so I do know that there were still, a lot of reports of people lighting off illegal fireworks and legal fireworks as well. But overall, it was much quieter. And we fortunately don't have any fires, at least here in Clackamas County. Possibly the condo fire or the apartment fire in Portland may have been caused by firework. We don't know yet.
Where was that
So
at?
northeast Portland.
Yeah.
But we'll find out. But that's just to say it was a relatively a safe and quieter July 4th.
It was.
I don't know, my dog still took off evidently. Mine's gone.
Okay, Commissioner Fisher.
Yeah. Thank you. Lots of social media on the fireworks and people concerned. I spent a lot of time correcting misinformation on the actual 4th of July as I was sitting on my deck, sipping my iced tea, watching, because I can see where they, in fact, I was talking to Commissioner Savas by text message. Looks like it's in your neighborhood. I'm seeing these, he's like, where am I now? So I don't really know. It's kind of where the bridge is. And he says, well, I'm in West Lynn. It's like, you moved to West Lynn. Anyway, Commissioner Savas and I had this. It's like, I didn't know West Lynn had a permitted fireworks display. Otherwise, I would have been there. That was pretty great. So I'm thinking, I don't know if we can use C4 or something for the next year, but if we could have a county-wide idea, if we could come to some consensus or just have a conversation between now and the next 4th of July as to where's the threshold. Do we just rely on the fire departments? When are we going to do something uniform? It was very confusing for people to know where were fireworks okay, where were they not okay. We have so many areas, especially around where I live in Lake Oswego, where the unincorporated areas are on the west side of Lake Oswego, and it just gets very confusing as to what is unincorporated, what is not unincorporated. And if we could be in alignment in messaging, I think that would be really good. It was really confusing.
We could do that at a C4 retreat. We could make that part of the agenda.
Yeah.
Well, are you finished?
Oh, almost. And then I have one more thing. I don't know if we agree that we want to do that.
Well, I'll make a comment on that. We can address it, but you want to finish what you have to say?
Okay, so that was my first thing that I wanted to suggest, and I'm hoping that we do something with that. And we'll talk about that when Chair Smith talks. And then, Commissioner Schrader, we did the Circle of Local Elected Women before there was COVID, and now, then there was COVID, and the Circle of Local Elected Women, Chair Smith, since you are an elected woman, I'll tell you about this. We would do Commissioner Schrader and I just kind of took the lead, and we would do an event at, people volunteer their homes, and they just bring an appetizer to share, and we would just get together and network and build amongst the women that are elected at city councils, and commission. And I think now that COVID is lifted, we should do it again. And I'm happy to host the next one, if you'd like. And then, Gary, I don't know, we want Chair Smith to be there. Do we just notice it? And I don't want the public showing up because it's a Circle of Local Elected Women.
You notice it's a public meeting, so yes, the public has the right to show up.
Well, I don't think they're going to show up.
I don't think they will.
Because, we're just a bunch of women sitting around talking about stuff. But anyway, I would like to do that again. I just wanted to see that there was.
Yes, I would attend.
Okay.
Yes, and I will bring an appetizer.
Yes, it's been fun. I mean,
It is.
really
It'd be nice
honestly,
to meet
you
those
think of how we get the work done when push comes to shove. I'm so thankful for all those relationships. We're in the midst of the pandemic, and then also with the wildfires, when that all broke, it's really good just to sit and not have an agenda. That's the thing, there's no agenda other than relationship building.
Yeah, regarding the fireworks, in my area of South Clackamas County country, we heard them all night long. And most people I talked to were extremely grateful that Clackamas County instituted the ban. Of course, I'm not going to hear from too many people saying, well, you shouldn't have done that. I'm going to go let them off anyway. We knew that was going to happen. I'm just thankful that because of the very dry conditions, there were no fires based on that. There was so much confusion around, and I tried to make very clear that our ban only encompassed unincorporated Clackamas County. I have no jurisdictions over the cities of Molalla, which somebody thought I did. And they were very upset at me that I did not ban fireworks in the city of Molalla, which I want to address what you brought up. The city of Molalla, 4th of July Buckaroo, has a huge fireworks display, huge, huge, huge. I would not expect the city of Molalla to join us in banning their fireworks because it's just, it's traditional. It has been many, many years. They let the fireworks off behind, the arena there, and they go up over the top, and they sprinkle down, and it's all dirt where they sprinkle down. The fire departments are on board. They're all professionally done, so we're probably not talking about banning professional fireworks.
Permitted, yeah.
Permitted, professional, and so it's going to be an issue going forward. I would think probably this year, Lake Oswego did not ban, West Lynn did not ban, Molalla, Estacada, Sandy, I'm not sure about Canby. I'm not sure what they did. So most of our cities did not see the necessity to ban fireworks within their city limits. And I think the issue for us was the extreme forest fire danger or brush or grass fields or any of that catching fire in our country or rural areas. It's going to be very difficult. I'm not opposed to having a conversation at C4, and if you guys want to go forward and try to plan for the next years or the next year, I just want to try to get out of this fire season into our rainy season in November without our county burning up again. And for us to consider, if we can focus on our most immediate work, is the ban expires July 10th. Okay, so we might want to consider if we let the ban expire or if we want to continue on that ban. I don't think it's going to be an issue past July 10th. I would just as soon at this point let that ban expire. If there's an issue, maybe we can deal with it at that point. Paul?
Yeah, so maybe, I think CFAR is probably not the right venue, but maybe mayors and chairs might be the place to broach it. So
I can do that.
Speak to it there. West Lynn did vote 4-1 to ban, but they did have the sanctioned professional one took place. So I believe that was a 4-1 vote, as I heard.
I don't know. And mayors and chairs is canceled this month because of people's vacations. I didn't want to talk just to one mayor. I'm sure they didn't want to talk to me either. But so we'll resume that in August, Paul. It's a good idea. Any other commissioner comments at this point? Seeing none, we'll recess until 1:30. Is that right, Gary?
Yes.